So, Formula One. Let's start with the sprint first. Max Verstappen wins the sprint in Belgium. Second position Oscar Piastri, third position Lando Norris, fourth position Leclerc, fifth position Ocon, sixth position Sainz, seventh position Behrman, eighth position Hajar. It was another Max Verstappen masterclass. You know, the king of the sprints has done it again. Verstappen. I mean, he hates the sprints, but he dominates the sprints. And it looked like McLaren. It looked like, you know, after the qualifying sprint, it looked like it was going to be another 1-2 for McLaren, because Oscar Piastri was like half a second ahead of Verstappen, 6/10 ahead of Lando Norris, and you think like, okay, Norris was below Verstappen, but you know, in the race pace, it should be 1-2 for McLaren in the sprint, but no, they it looked like they had a different setup. They changed the setup. They changed this. I don't think they were complacent, but I think they wanted to save their energy for the original qualifying, and also they wanted to save their energy for the race. And also Oscar Piastri, like, he had a great performance in sprint qualifying, but in the race, it was a great overtake by Max Verstappen in the first lap, and obviously that slipstream in turn 3, I think, Rouge, great overtake from Verstappen. It was a guy that will always go for it, no matter what. So yeah, great performance from Verstappen. He defended the two McLarens for his life in the last, 6-7 laps. And obviously in Spa, it's over a lap, it's very long. It's like a minute and 40 seconds or 45 seconds. It's very long. It's not like it's a short track like, I don't know, Austria or Brazil, etc. It's a long track, and he defended them fantastically well. Great performance from Verstappen. The overtake, defended well, got the strategy right, well controlled, well matured. Amazing performance from Verstappen. Fantastic. He defended. He showed that he's the lion. He still is the king in Formula One right now. Still, he's not going to win the championship, but he showed that he's still, he's still got it of the two McLarens. Still, and yeah, great performance from Verstappen. I don't know what can we say about Verstappen. Like, the guy he's incredibly good. How he does this, it's unbelievable. Absolutely. I mean, Horner leaving, and you think like, okay, Red Bull, they're gonna, maybe it could give them let's say a manager bounce, like we said in football. New team principal after 20 years, etc. And it could kind of gave Red Bull a bit in the sprint, but also, like, you think like, oh, because of Horner leaving, it might affect Red Bull, but it didn't affect them in the sprint. Verstappen had a great performance. Sorry. And yeah, the two McLarens were chasing Verstappen, but I would say Oscar Piastri, I think his performance in qualifying, in the sprint qualifying, it was amazing, super dominant. But in the sprint, I think he was. I think he kind of cooked his tires a little bit. He didn't manage his tires well, which I said it before in the predictions and preview, that he needs to try to win in different ways, not only pure pace but also managing tires, which he didn't do. As I said before, I said in the predictions and preview, which he should try to do, but he didn't do it. He didn't listen to me. But he also made one or two mistakes. He's stuck in the gravel. His battery was in mid-level, from what I heard from Lando's engineer. So his battery was going down. So and Lando was closing on Oscar, despite he was behind Charles, because Charles passed him in the first lap, but then Norris got it back. But Norris was closing in on Piastri, but he wanted probably save his tires more, because he noticed that Oscar was not saving his battery, not tires, battery, sorry. So yeah, But at the same time, it's not like McLaren were poor in this race. I think they tried that they had a different setup, different strategy. They changed the strategy. Maybe they were like more focused on the original qualifying in the race. They wanted to save their energy. So I can't understand why, because the sprint is not like, it's not so important. Because the difference in points between, you know, first and second position is 1 point, whereas in the race is like 7 points. So I understand why. Um, yeah, that's it. Um, but yeah, great performance from Verstappen once again. Um, Fourth, Haas were absolutely amazing in the sprint. I mean, all weekend, the pace of Haas looked amazingly good in the practice, in the sprint qualifying, and the sprint. They were fantastic. I thought Ocon and Bambi looked amazingly good. Sainz had a very good performance as well. Bottas had a decent performance as well. So Hajar is having an amazing season yet again. Getting on the points. So yeah, very good performance, particularly from Haas. Considering they had a struggle massively in Silverstone. Very good performance from them. And now let's move on to original qualifying. Lando Norris got pole, second position Oscar Piastri, third position Leclerc, fourth position Verstappen, fifth position Albon, sixth, seventh. Yuki Tsunoda finally gets Q3, finally. I mean, considering for the standards of Red Bull, the second Red Bull seat, it's amazing that he got to the Q3 finishing seventh. Amazing. Bottas got into the Q3 again. Good performance from him. Two V Cabs, very good performance from V Cab. Albon finishing fifth, very good performance from him. Norris getting pole, great lap from him for the first lap, fantastic, phenomenal lap from him. Piastri, he improved in his lap time the second time, but that wasn't enough to beat Norris's best lap. And Verstappen arguably should have been in third, but Leclerc got it third. George Russell was fastest in the sector first and sector 3, but he ended up finishing sixth, which was strange considering he was fastest in first sector 1 and 3. But you can clearly see, like, all weekend, if you look at all weekend, by the way, like the McLaren was struggling in the sector 1, but in the sector 2 they were absolutely destroying everybody. If you look at the lap time, Norris and Piastri in terms of sector 2, they were destroying everybody. McLaren were a second, arguably a second above everybody else in that sector 2, and that's what made the difference in the lap times in the end. The sector 3, it was like Verstappen could be fastest, Piastri and Norris could be the fastest as well. Russell, I think, was the fastest in the sector. Yeah, he was in the fastest sector 3. No, McLaren's weak point was in the sector 1, but after that, sector 2, they were absolutely outstanding above everybody else, and sector 3, they're also the best to some extent, but Russell was the fastest. Verstappen was also up there in the sector 3. So yeah, and that sector 2, like, it's a bit like Verstappen performance in the sprint quali and the practice, where he was very good in sector 1 and sector 3, but sector 2 it hurted Verstappen. And that's similar to Russell's. So yeah. And yeah, before I talk about the other things, people say that the sprint was boring after the first lap. I mean, I don't know, but like teams don't want to take too much risks. They don't want to take too much risks because they've got qualifying and they've got the race. So I understand why. So don't expect too much, action, and especially in a track like Belgium, where there's not too many turns that you can easily overtake. Like, I didn't expect an outstanding race, but I expected some action, but I didn't expect like a crazy sprint race unless there was rain. So yeah, but yeah. But at least we saw some action, Verstappen fighting against the two McLarens and the first lap action as well. So yeah. And then you go to from 11th to 20th. Aston Martin were bottom in the 19th and 20th. My God, Aston Martin, they brought upgrades and they look good in the spring quali. They look good in the practice, but in the qualifying, the original qualifying, they were absolutely terrible, terrible, Aston Martin. But you could clearly see Adrian Newey and his engineers, they and the drivers, obviously, they're mostly focused on 2026, and you can clearly see that Adrian Newey wants that. He wants that wind tunnel time. He wants that wind tunnel. You know, you're like, okay, Aston, okay, Fernando, okay, Lance, perform as much as bad as you can. We will get that wind tunnel time for next year, no problem. So, like Aston Martin, you can clearly see they don't really care about this year. They don't really care. They only care about next year. And I understand why, because this year is written enough for Aston Martin. Where are they going to finish? 7th, 8th? Does that going to make a huge difference? No. So yeah, they've still got the resources. They still got everything there. So they will have the wind tunnel time. So I don't think it should be a big worry for what happened to Aston Martin this season. So they're mostly focused on next year. Adrian Newey and his engineers and the drivers, they're mostly focused on next year. But by the way, Antonelli and Lewis Hamilton were again out in Q1. They got knocked out in Q1, SQ1. You think like, okay, but it's a sprint quali, whatever. But in the original qualifying, again, they got knocked out in the Q1 again. Like Antonelli, like what makes it even worse, like Antonelli made the mistake in the SQ1 where he spun off. Okay, that can happen. But this time he was knocked out because he was slow. He was slow. He had no pace. No pace. And that's the more worrying part when your driver is not performing well because he had no pace and he was slow, not because he was good in the lap but he just spun and he was just unlucky. That makes it even more worse. And yeah, Antonelli again, like his performances recently has been very, very poor. Like, yeah, he got that podium in Canada, but so many DNFs out in Q1 a couple of times, and he's a rookie. Of course, he's going to make mistakes. Obviously, he had the DNF in Austria where he crashed into the back of Verstappen. Like his form recently has been, but he's not been great. I mean, at the start of the season, you look good, and after that, there was the European season coming up, and Toto Wolff said, we can expect to see the best of Antonelli because there's the tracks where known from F2 and F3. And listen, driving an F1 car is different to driving an F2, F3 car. Yeah, but at least it gives more feel of the circuit. And poor once again for Antonelli, and we keep saying that it's going to be Max and Kimi for the Mercedes seat, but could it be could Kimi be the one that actually be dumped out and goes on loan to Alpine? And he was crying in the interview. I mean, I really feel sorry for him, and it obviously doesn't deserve, and it's sad to see him crying in the interview, etc. But yeah, not great again for Antonelli. Lewis Hamilton again. He was out in qualifying Q1 again, and in this Q1 he spun. Okay, that can happen, but this time he got knocked out because of track limits. Track limits again. Like Hamilton, like people say Hamilton is finished. I won't say Hamilton is finished, but you can clearly see he's not the same driver as before. He's lost an edge. You can clearly see that, as Montebrando once mentioned before. He's lost an edge. He's still got that pace racecraft in him. But in terms of qualifying, he's not the same. He's not the same. And